So I generally don't like to be that negative about Doctor Who. I'm generally in the kind of group of people who probably want to be a lot more optimistic about where it's headed or its history or whatever than most people. Going into this episode, although feeling like this could be one of the best Chibnall episodes to date, I was just severely disappointed. I cannot begin to describe the level of letdownness that I feel. The Sea Devils was one of my kind of favourite stories growing up. Like, that was one of the more common ones that I'd put on, and I actually rewatched The Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep, or From the Deep, I can never get that right. I watched those two stories recently. Warriors of the Deep was not a fun watch, but The Sea Devils, I enjoyed that one. I'm not too sure what I was hoping when I was going into it. I definitely wanted a lot of the Doctor and Yaz's relationship. I really wanted them to explore that. I was interested in what they were going to do with the whole Chinese pirate stuff. That was really interesting. I was a little bit cautious of how they were going to throw the Sea Devils into it, and even when I saw the clip of them in the Coming Soon trailer at the end of Eve of the Daleks, I thought the design's great, but it does look like it's been animated a bit oddly, but I'll get into that in a second. To avoid this video from essentially turning into a rant or going on for too long, I compiled a list, essentially bullet points, of cons and pros. I said cons first because I'm going to do cons first, and they're not in any particular order. They're just generally what came straight into my head as soon as I was making this list, like 10 minutes ago. So the first one is CGI. I think everyone at this moment has had a little bit of a giggle at the jump of the Sea Devil jumping into the boat. The ship itself was actually done pretty well, but the Sea Devil jumping into it, not so much. And the Sea Devil's facial animations and the warping that they've got just don't really do it for me. I think they could have gone a different route, definitely, but it doesn't really throw me off or anything. So the Sea Devils animation and CGI stuff, not so bad. There were also some just kind of green screen or blue screen kind of things that I noticed, and I thought, well, I know that the BBC and Doctor Who aren't known very well for their amazing CG, but you know, you'd hope for something at least competent, or if, you know, they thought that they couldn't do it to a high standard, you'd think that they would do something different, but apparently not in this case. But bad CG is not necessarily the be-all and end-all of a Doctor Who story. That's fine. You know what? I can make do with a bit of bad CGI. I mean, Doctor Who being my favourite show, I kind of have to at this point. My list kind of jumps to a bit more extreme on this bit. Then I said that the writing was terrible, and it was the worst part of the episode for me. Honestly, in the first 5-10 minutes, it felt like a child wrote it. It felt like something that I had written in like year 3 or 4 when my teacher was like, okay everyone, we're going to practice writing short stories, and everyone would write like 3 pages of a short story or something, and they were obviously terrible because they were just like, they did this, and then they did this, and then they did that, and they did this, and then they did all these other things, and oh my god, this is happening now, oh, plot twist crazy, whoa, and it just doesn't actually make any logical sense. Even though we think that there's so much substance going on, there's essentially all. The same problem that I've written down later is the pacing in this. It just feels like one thing is happening after the next, and it doesn't slow down. It slows down in the scene in the TARDIS in the bottom of the ocean, which, don't get me wrong, was actually okay. It didn't really make sense how Yaz didn't notice the floor crumbling from beneath them, but that's fine. But as a whole, it was so quick. It was hard for me to make judgment on it because it was just one thing after the other. Crazy, whoa, they're upside down now, but now they're fighting and cannons, and they've got a ship, and yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know. It's not right. I mean, it's weird because Eve of the Daleks, I liked Eve of the Daleks, and that one was paced, you know, it was paced relatively well, but this one, for some reason, completely lost that. I wrote that there's loads of exposition, which is most of the stuff. I mean, there's like 5 minutes of the Sea Devil leader dude talking to the Doctor and Yaz about whatever, and also I thought the Sea Devil actual leader guy was the most token basic Doctor Who baddie. It didn't have to be a Sea Devil. It could have been anything else. Absolutely anything else. They could have written another story. It could have been the Pating, and I would have probably enjoyed it a little bit more, because then they wouldn't have, well, I say ruin the Sea Devils, I mean Warriors Warriors of the Deep kind of did that for me already. I wrote here that when the Sea Devils said that they wanted the keystone, I thought the keystone was the bit from the statue that Madam Ching broke off right at the start of the episode. But apparently it was just this glowing orange soul stone that this dude just had. Also, this dude happened to be a descendant of some other dude, which was completely unnecessary, really. And that other guy was like, whoa, you are the descendant of my besom mate who I killed or whatever. I wrote here that it felt like it was completely winged on the day. Like, it felt like it was planned on set, especially the sword fight on the ship. That bit felt like if I went out with a camera with a bunch of my mates and we just decided we were going to film a sword fight in one day. Essentially, a lot of this would have also helped if it was longer. A lot of the scenes don't feel like they even start or like they even end. It's just like, they're here now, deal with it. So Madam Ching just ends up on her ship. Okay, finally, I've got that the acting was off. And I think that the majority of this is actually due to the writing. The supporting cast are probably great. It probably just doesn't help that they were given such a crap script. But because of the crap script, it just feels like they're just children acting in a year 6 play or something. There are probably other bad things that other people will go into, but let's talk about some of the good things from this episode. I think everyone can agree that the best thing of the actual episode was the costumes and the set design. I watched one of they released, the Doctor Who YouTube channel released a video of them talking about the ship and how it's an actual full proper set, and that is amazing. The fact that they did that, and they also talked about designing the Sea Devils, and the design of the Sea Devils looks fantastic if you forget about the whole weird animation that they've done on them. But the Sea Devils look great. Thank God they went back to the kind of 1970s Sea Devils and not the 80s Sea Devils of Warriors of the Deep. Although, don't get me wrong, I actually do kind of prefer the design generally of the Warriors of the Deep Sea Devils. I think they look pretty cool in their kind of samurai-esque getup. But anyway, in general, the costumes and the Sea Devil design and the set design, phenomenal. I absolutely loved Jodie Whittaker's costume in this episode. I think it's so good. I think it, honestly, like, she could just wear that in every episode and that would be her outfit, and I would be happy with that because I thought that outfit was so good. Yaz and the Doctor's relationship is explored. Yes, I'm so happy that we're actually doing more stuff about this. It feels odd that we're all basically throwing the majority of this in the final episode. Like, I'm a sucker for some character development. We don't really get, like, I want this kind of relationship to be explored a lot more, but all we got was a little bit of nods to it, maybe if you're watching properly in Flux. Then you've got Dan calling out Yaz and Eva the Daleks. Then you got in the next episode the Doctor being like, I can't do this, I'm immortal, people die, which we've, you know, the whole spiel that we've heard before. I feel like it's best not to do these things one episode after another. You're meant to do these things over multiple stories. Give us space to breathe and kind of develop our own kind of thoughts of where it might be going, because we have no idea what they were going to do. We had the look at the end, and then we have at the end of this episode is the Doctor telling Yaz about all of the problems of her developing these close relationships. So as much as that part is great and I really enjoyed it, it falls flat in that in the total grand scheme of things, it could have been done better. Obviously, I feel like I can't talk about this episode and completely dismiss the coming soon trailer. I was so enthralled by this coming soon trailer, I just kind of forgot about Legend of the Sea Devils. I need this next episode. I know I said at the start that I'm usually optimistic, but because I was let down so much by Legend of the Sea Devils, I really hope that they've got this next episode right. I mean, bringing back Tegan is one thing, right? But bringing back Ace is another. You ruin Ace's character, you alienate even more people than they probably already have, unfortunately. So here's to them getting the centenary special right. Kate Stewart and Daleks and Cybermen and Ashad and the Master with a beard and long hair and then also no beard, and people think for some reason that the Doctor's going to regenerate into no beard Sacha Dhawan, and then I have genuinely zero idea as to why people think that, but you do you. I'm really interested to see your just general thoughts on this episode. I mean, everyone's talking about the coming soon trailer. I mean, that's essentially all people are talking about, and then they're just talking about the bad CG. But I'd love to see what you thought it did really well, because obviously I think it did that final Yaz and the Doctor part quite well, and I was really happy with what the Doctor said, even if we've kind of heard it a few times before. I really hope some other people can find some joy in this episode. You know, let me know what you think in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter for, you know, I put some of my opinions on there sometimes. I put more opinions on Twitter than I do on YouTube. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section about this episode, but specifically I really want to know what you enjoyed about this episode. You might have not liked the episode, but you loved these parts of the episodes. You might have loved the episode, but you actually saw like some of the things that people didn't, that you weren't too fond of. Yeah, but either way, I'm Sam, and I'll see you next time.